So this is the time for the sharing and reflection. Before any reflections, anybody has anything to ask or share? So in that case, it's up to me. So in that case, I will straight away to the topic that we have been concentrating on. The topic that we have been discussing this year is the 7 purifications. And the 7 purifications is the principles that if we follow step by step, it leads to the enlightenment. So it starts off from the purification of morality, purification of mind, purification of view, purification of doubts, purification of the right path, purification of right practice and wisdom. Yeah. So these are the, or jnana, the last one is the jnana, the wisdom or knowledge. So these are the 7 purifications that Buddha spoke about as the path to the liberation. And over this previous sessions, I managed to explain up to the first, that's the purification of morality. And last week I concluded that the purification of morality. So today maybe jump to the next one, purification of the mind. So purification of the mind, when we look at the other principles, like the Buddha said that do not do evil, do good, and purification of the mind. And there is also other occasions, there are many instructions saying that purification of the mind is the key of the practice of the Dhamma. However, this particular purification of the mind on this particular discourse is not talking about the complete purified. But this practice is to see the main root cause of the problems, and then ability to work with the mind that is not infused with the hindrances, so like essential pleasures, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and doubts. So these will not be there. And also the mind is directed towards the cultivation of insight knowledge. So that's here talking about the purification of the mind. Now, a person who hasn't practiced would not understand that how this mind always dragged to the worldly affairs, and in ear hears, tongue tastes, nose smells, and body comes to contact, straight away we go into engagement, and that very engagement we put so many other informations, and as a result these hindrances will just take over. The very moment when hindrances takes over, then mind becomes unsettled and swayed into one way or another, and whenever we make any choice or decisions, that becomes based on what we have learned or the perceptions that we have, and then we make that decisions based on that. Whereas the practice of the meditation here will able to not allowing these activities to take place, which doesn't mean that you are not allowed to entertain with the world. That would be terrible. You can entertain with the world, but ability to see how these things are multiplying or engaging in it, and we become emotionally hampered or emotionally down or emotionally so overjoyed, out of control. So that's why the purification of the mind we have to look at in two different ways. One way is that the practice purely leading towards gaining the proper concentration, fully absorbed in it, and there is a complete closed position. It's like you have sealed your mind and this cannot go out. It's like a genie's been kept for a long time and waiting for someone to find it and open the lid. So mind is like that. So we have put this in and fully absorbed, but this is also called the purification of the mind. So that's the temporal purification of the mind. So that moment nothing can happen, nothing will disturb, mind is fully absorbed. But this is not what the Buddha was talking about on this Dhamma. So Buddha was talking about, and obviously another purification of the mind is that despite of fully absorbed in or cased the mind in, there is awareness in every step, and that awareness in every step leads to the insight again. So that is the one the Buddha was talking about. But having said that, doesn't mean that the case one is not helpful. But this case one need a little bit of extra other efforts to further practice. Then that will become the part that leading towards the purification of the view. Otherwise, we just perceive that this is the end, and we stop there, and we do not see that how things take place, or how problems or miseries, and then how these defilements multiplies, and how this hindrances comes in and disturbs. So the samadhi here, or the purification of the citta, is also known as the samadhi. So the samadhi here, there are three different types of the samadhis. One is called the kanika samadhi, upachara samadhi, and then apana samadhi. There are three different types and levels of samadhis, and that's a different level of ways we purify the mind. Now the one which is the cased one, or the cap, you put the cap on, is called apana samadhi, which has the capability of fully absorbed in and zoned in and be with that. Pretty much whenever you come and sit and meditate, you will be in it. So like that. And the second one is like ability to hang on to the object. Upachara Samadhi is like ability to hang on to the object, but you won't be able to hang for a long time. And this is not the complete, the purified one. And then the last one is called the Kanika Samadhi, or momentary concentration. This can be a foundation ground as well as can be the doorway to the enlightenment, or doorway to the insight. So this works in two ways, in such a way. So whichever way we are going, if after we have attained the capped stage of a mind, and we able to withdraw ourselves, step back and look at it and see the characteristics of the object, characteristics of our own mind, and characteristics of our own observation in a true sense. That true sense means the characteristics of a change. So if we can see that change in that or in those stages, then that's also fine. So, and then the second one, which we are not talking about the hanging one, it's not the long one, so that we are not talking about. There's another word is called excess concentration, so we are not talking about that one. The last one, the momentary concentration, or known as the Kanika Samadhi, this is something that slow progress, bit dry, and you don't see any benefits on it, and you don't see any progress in it. But over the long period of time, then you see that your perception to things that you're observing slowly changes, slowly shifts towards the acceptance, towards understanding it, and towards even like it's okay, like sort of that feeling will arise, or that understanding will arise. So as a result of that, in the practice of a meditation, like let's say the rising and the falling of abdomen, we start from the beginning, that when we are observing the abdominal rising falling is not a static. We are not watching only that, but that is just the beginning point. When we are watching that rising and falling of the abdomen, whenever other objects arises, so that moment we pay attention to the another object, not to the rising and falling of abdomen. And then while we are observing that the distraction, which is again another name for it, another distraction, when we observe that distraction, again we are not observing it as the thought of trying to let it go, or trying to come back to the rising and falling straight away. So that's why there is, I normally instruct, observe, acknowledge, note, and let go. So that's basically the practicing of a momentary concentration in each and every object that arises, each and every phenomena that arises. So here we are basically observing the practicing of the momentary concentration. So another name which is popular that we normally hear is present moment awareness. Present moment awareness. So here present moment awareness doesn't mean only the breath, that we should come back to the breath and then aware of that, but any other phenomena, whether the sound that we hear, whether the smell that we feel, whether the contact or any heat or cold that we come across, or the thoughts or the pain or aches and pains like that. anything, that is the object. So that's why I normally used to say that when we start meditating, when things come to disturb you, that is a distraction. But as we progress in the practice of meditation, those distraction becomes the friend. Those distraction becomes the ladder to improve further understanding. So there is no distractions at all. Everything that comes, we simply, the terminology used, the phenomena, or in the Pali word called arambana, so the phenomena or the object, and also another word is the secondary object, secondary object. So whenever these phenomena arises, we have the present moment awareness on it, that this has arisen, and the mind has contacted it, observed it, but not with that for a long time. And there is no intention that, oh, why don't it go? There is no feeling for that. Or, wish I have such a pleasant feeling all the time. Not something like that, nothing there. So we observe that objectively. So, and then once we have observed it, fully understood it, so that basically means teaching us to understand that this is impermanent. This is changing. And when it changes again, so it will come back to somewhere else. And now here, that's another reason why we have to familiarize with the object. So that the reason is that the mind, after finish the job, noticing one phenomena, then it has to have another phenomena or another object, so-called cetasikas. Another object has to have in our mind, otherwise the mind will not function, the mind will not arise. So it will go and find something else. And here, randomly choosing is not helping us to understand this mind itself. So the mind itself. So that's why familiarizing with the primary object, what happens that after we have dealt with the phenomena, the observing, acknowledging, noting, and letting go, with this letting go moment, as soon as this about to fade away, the rising and falling, which in your case, if you are doing it in your nose, so mind automatically takes that object to come back as a neutral object. So you don't have to think, you don't have to make any concepts or terms or put into contents, because the breath itself, if you're working on in your nose, then we have already developed that this is a neutral. So there is no other way that we can put in, oh, this is nice, this is not nice, I want this, there won't be such things there. Now here, the irony is, way we are doing, we are watching the breath or the rising falling of abdomen, another object comes, we leave the rising falling, and then straight away observe this another object, which is the present moment awareness, present moment object, and we're aware of that. And we're working with that, and after finish it, we come back to the object. There is no little hole, there is no little moment that the hindrances can come in. Because hindrances only able to come in when there is a hole, and that hole allow us to think about the past or the future. When there is a past or the future clicks in, and then the hindrances, oh, I got the chance to escape out from this cage. And straight away fly away and making the stories like that. Whereas here we are moment by moment aware, everything, every moment we are aware of that, then there is no chance. And then with that awareness repeatedly doing, obviously later on we see this is not, it was, now it again arises, now it's going to change. Without we are telling, we see it, we understood it. by experience. And this is why it's called the bhavana panya, or the knowledge gained through the experience. Then that happens. Slowly that happens in that way. Then no need to worry. And then with that, what happens that this comes and it will go again. This comes, it will go again. It's changing again. So this little, by little, knowing that, then we can later apply in a bigger things, like that. So that's why this samadhi here requires effort, and then mindfulness, and then the concentration. So here, the purification of the mind is talking about the mind is fully concentrated on each and every phenomena that arises in the present moment. And that present moment again, rather than anything out there, you're concentrating on the body, feeling, mind and a phenomena, or the satipatthana, 4 foundations of a mindfulness. So when our mind is concentrated and related to the mind-body ourselves, and our mind is continuously working on that with the so-called sampajanya, then that is the way the mind has been purified from all other things that dilutes the mind. Now it's going into the right understanding. That's the purification of the view. So we're moving on to that. So that's what in the purification of the mind here is always linked to effort. And here again, effort means the right effort. That any akusal or unwholesome mental states have been uprooted, but kusala or wholesome being established and maintained continuously. So with that continuous wholesome establishment, we're able to concentrate on mind-body, our own phenomena. So, and our mind is always concentrated on this mind-body phenomena. Then that gives us a true understanding that this is again changing. This is again changing, and this is suffering, and I should not be attached to it as a permanent thing like that. So that's how it moves into the purification of the view. So this moment, there's a possibility of knowing 2 things. Number 1, be able to define mind is one thing, body is another. And then number 2, we're able to see that the mind-body are interconnected and working mutually to sustain or survive. Without the mind, there is no body. Without the body, there is no mind. Like that. So we both working together in that sense. So we're able to see these 2 things. And then after we have seen it, then move into understanding that this is a change taking place. So that the moment when we see that these phenomena are changing or nature to change, then we are moving into the true insight. So that's why this is the insight that we're talking about. So when you look at it in such a way, the purification of morality and the purification of the mind is universal to every faith. It was before the Buddha and during the Buddha, and there are different ways of people were practicing morality to find harmony and peace in each communities. They have their own way of functioning, and they have their own way of ruling, governing rules there. And the same with that, the purification of the mind. different types of contemplations were there, are there, and will be. These contemplations are good in a certain level, and then it's a good to gain the calmness of the mind and feeling of bit of ecstasy, but it's not leading towards the overcoming the defilements, and it's not leading towards the stopping the hindrances, and it's not leading towards understanding the three characteristics, the impermanence, suffering, and anatta. So that's why until this one is universal to all. But the very moment when we move on to the purification of the view, then that will be completely different. So looking world in a very different eye. So not from the perceptions that we build up based on a culture or beliefs or whatever knowledge that we have read or whatever we have we understood, but this is from like a true nature or a true understanding that whoever practices it in that way, then one will see this anicca, dukkha, anatta, or impermanence, suffering, and non-self. So this is the purification of the mind, and I hope we can move on. So I stop here. Before we practice loving kindness meditation, any question, anything you want to share?